good on our side, so you guys can start whenever.
All right. Okay, I would like to welcome everybody to a special curriculum committee meeting of the West Bend School Board. It is Thursday, September 28th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. This meeting is taking place virtually. We will start with introductions of committee members and the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I am Melanie Ergott, School Board member.
June Kruger, School Board member.
Kelly Lang, School Board member.
And Quinn Trueblood, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
All right, we will move to our first agenda item for review and discussion.
Thank you. I'll start with that. So as you recall, from the board work session, there was a process that was established to vet books that were constituting book club books. And so as we walked through those processes again, at the last committee meeting, I wanted to bring forward the list for final review, for your review, moving through those steps. And would anybody like to repeat, would anybody on the committee here like me to repeat the process, or are you okay to move on with the actual review?
I don't need a repeat.
Yeah, I think we're probably okay to move on if everyone else is.
All right, thank you. So we'll start with the 7th grade book club list, and we'll do a share screen, and we'll start with that one.
Okay.
Okay. So what we have here, we'll expand that so it's larger. There we go. So it's on your screen, but you also have a copy of it in front of you. So I just wanted to walk through that. So this is the standard parent letter. And you'll also notice that there are 22 books on this list, which is a slight departure from what was recommended to be shorter. What has happened here is that there are about 3 books that typically in 9 weeks, 7th grade students would read. And so rather than having multiple requests for parent permission, we would consolidate it into one. And so that, I think, because of that mechanism that the teachers are using and to avoid more permission slips, what we'd recommend here is that cover page of that letter reflect more explicitly that the students will have 3 books they're reading throughout the 9-week in the quarter. So that explains the 22 books that were vetted. Okay, any questions on that? So
is this just for the 4th or the first quarter?
This
and they'll
is
be reading 3 books.
Yes. Okay. And just simply put, because it's already, we're 4 weeks in, so we have 5 remaining, you would understand that the students wouldn't be reading 3 books at this point, but we want to just simulate what would be typical.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that there's a lot of variety on this one.
Yeah.
A lot of variety of options, and there are quite a few choices that have the NA in every category of the obscene language, sexual content, and graphic violence. So I do like that. There are a lot of options for kids that, you know, would be opting for something without all of those.
I'll also add, just for, because when we were vetting them as a team, we thought it was really important to add the units of study. So we understood what these books were being studied with and for what purpose. The standards you'll see are also included in this particular permission slip and the essential question. We also were able to standardize the descriptions using the Destiny language. Destiny is the cataloging system from the library. So we really did mostly just cut and paste. And if it was too lengthy, our team did some editing for brevity. But the essential language is there. You'll also notice that the learning focus is there, and that is actually what is also listed in Destiny. And so that really gives an overall picture of what kind of genre these books are falling in or what kinds of topics they are. I think those are very value adds, and that came from our team. So I just wanted to note that.
Okay.
Any other comments about this list itself?
I had one thing. I noticed that one of the books, Prairie Lotus, is struck out.
Yes.
I think that was the only book on the list that had an Asian American main character. So I'm wondering if we could work to next quarter or next year or whenever, find something that could replace that still has, exposing children to an Asian American way of life or, so.
Thank you for noticing that, June, because that was going to be my next look for, which is drawing your attention to Prairie Lotus. There were a few strikes, and you'll see throughout the 3 exhibits, not too many, but when we struck that from the list, we did ask the teachers when we had questions specifically about the 3 criteria. One of the notes was from the teachers that many 7th graders right now it's not very popular book, so that's just a very low level criteria. But secondly, we did as a team talk about that cultural aspect, and that we want to make sure that we balance it out and include maybe not this book, but another type of book, as you mentioned, June. And also the reason why it came up also for consideration to remove was that the question was, our team asked, the mom dies, the dad's an abusive character. What is the quality or nature of that abuse or that assault? And so it was not graphic. And so based on those measures, we thought, well, maybe this is one that didn't need to be tested, but it certainly could be replaced. But thank you, June, for mentioning that.
Thank you. I did have one note on the book Bluefish. It's a little bit further down the list. I saw a learning focus of not available. Is that because the source you were looking at didn't have it at the time? I wonder if parents will question that.
Yeah, it is absent in the Destiny system. And so we actually grappled with, should we say not available in Destiny? What should we say about that? So if you had suggestions, that would be good right now. We thought maybe just not available means it's not available, as opposed to, I don't know how else to explain that.
Right. Okay. And it would be probably not in alignment to summarize with our own tags, or I think.
Yeah, we talked about having integrity in our sources, and that too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If we had every learning focus was from one source that had a lot of integrity, at least on our school level, that we should probably not introduce another source of reference for that.
That's fair.
While you're thinking a little bit or considering more questions, I did want to take some time to just give you some context for some of the findings or discoveries, the experience that our team had and the teachers had. If that's okay, we'll take a break from that. Would that be a good time right now?
Sure.
So it definitely was not easy for our teachers because it was new, first of all, and secondly, it's hard when you're asked to do something that you don't quite understand entirely, but do know that we're all together in this and stepping with each other. So that's kind of the experience. And our team was learning also how to look at these books using the process that was set before. But what I think is worth noting is that we really had to, and all of us had to, who were touching these books and using the process, we really had to draw a real distinction between what was being inferred versus what was actually being described. And so many of the events were inferences, and that really helped us a lot. You can infer something or you can actually describe something in detail. So many inferences really drew a good line for us. We also contemplated what was a swear word we weren't the judge and jury of that, but we do know that there are common ones and there are other ones that people might think are quite severe. So we had to kind of remove ourselves from that thinking, because it wasn't the work, but it was one of those things that caught our attention. And secondly, when we went out there and looked at what was publicly available for these books, there was a huge range. Some had very little on it from reviewers, and some had quite a lot on it. So just to make note of that. And lastly, we will be continuing to search for books that we think would be very good for the board to exercise its review with further on in the process. So those were the key findings that we had in our process.
Thank you.
I, for one, appreciate all the hard work, especially in the month of September at the beginning of the year. It's never easy. And I can see a lot of work went into this. So thank you.
Yes. And that really goes to our team for sure. But I have to tell you that the teachers are the ones who are really taking the time, really understanding the task. And I think most of that is on them. So I appreciate them endlessly. Are there any additional questions on the 7th grade list?
No.
I'd like to move to the, yes, Kelly?
I'm sorry, I just said none for me.
Okay, thank you. Could we please move to Honors English 1, the list for Honors English 1? Right off the bat, you'll see that the Glass Castle was also up for consideration for additional review or consideration for exercise. That one is the one that could be used for considering resetting bars. That's why it's set aside right now.
I'm in favor of removing it. I tend to lean less, farther away from the obscene content and all of that. One thing I did notice was that in the Honors English 1, there's only one book of the 4 that has NA in all 3 categories. The other ones all are marked in at least one of the other ones, so.
Yes, and I would note also the frequency of the obscene language, and you can see the words that are posted on there. Mm-hmm. It did meet the criteria for sporadic in that grade band.
Sure, but I'm just saying if somebody didn't want their child to read a book with that, there's only one option, I know it's a push, but I obviously down the road, I would like to see more choices added without with the NA in all 3 categories,
Noted.
And to that point, I also feel like we have a couple of safeguards in place that we could be a little bit looser with the options. And then the parents can decide, and then the child may not even pick that book. So this is Honors English 1. So we do want to continue to challenge our students as well.
Yeah. They are chronologically of the same age, but developmentally in the reading area would be more advanced, as June noted. So I think that is a cause for considering what would be permissible for their developmental reading age. Any other comments or questions about Honors English 1 book list?
Thanks.
Okay. Kelly, I did not, Ms. Lang, I did not hear from you just because I want to make sure that I didn't miss a signal.
No.
Okay, thank you.
We're good.
So I'll move to Honors English 2 book list. Here we have more of the classics.
I didn't have any comments on this list.
I just had the same comment that I had on the last one, that there was only one of the 6 books that had the NA in all 3 categories. So if a parent doesn't want their child reading things in those categories, it just leaves one book for an option. So I would like to see more choices that would fit into the NA on all 3 of the obscene language, sexual content, and graphic violence categories. And then I just also had a question too about, and this is probably for all 3 of the lists really, but I noticed that a lot of the books had pretty heavy topics, right? And so I was wondering, is that like part of the curriculum that it needs to include those heavy topics, or can the essential questions that they're trying to answer in the, when they go over these books in the class be answered with later reading? Like, I just think with all the mental health struggles, why are we asking students to process such heavy topics like near-death experiences, abuse, death, tragedy, cannibalism, addiction? Like, these are all big, heavy topics, right?
Yeah. Our team also noted that, and in many discussion rounds, all of the units of study at various levels really develop a deep understanding of character. And all these books have very strong character development. And so also engagement was also one of the things that the teacher said. We really want to have a variety of books that are engaging and interesting to students, especially for the reader who is just more reluctant. And so those are the primary reasons why these books have worked or not worked in the past. We recognize that there are stories out there that are true to the culture, true to the experience of the character, and that's the stories that are being read by young people right now. Melanie, one thing that we thought about though when we were looking at this is that's why that learning focus really helped us a lot, because in Destiny, as they are written, sometimes we can look at the actual events that the characters experience, but we also can say that, I'm just looking at it simply because it's Huckleberry Finn, but it is an adventure story. It is historical fiction. If we go to One Flew Over this is actually not the best example. I'm just going to actually pull one from another list where we said, oh, if we haven't read it ourselves as reviewers, we would say that, I'm just going to track one other one to make my point more clear. I'm going to go to the 7th grade list because there's more options here. So I'll just take the miscalculations of Lightning Girl. And the learning focus there was elements of bullying, diverse abilities, friendship stories, relationship skills, self-awareness, and social emotional learning. So it really kind of gives us more of an overall picture of where the stories fall within the literature genres. So that was one thing that we helped to track ourselves to monitor that, exactly what you were talking about, Melanie. So it wasn't a singular focus on what was the story really about. It helped us to look at the overall genre in which these stories fell.
Sure. I guess I just like to see some maybe lighter, not on like the skill level of the reading, but like the topics. I'd like to see some lighter topics too, because not everybody, some of these things could be triggering for some kids based on their background, and that's just something to keep in mind, to have some more choices that are maybe not as triggering, or, if these are things people have actually dealt with in their life, it might not be something people want to read about, right?
And that does boil down to choice again from the students and not from the parents, I think. And that's kind of where we have to I believe, leave it. But I hear you.
Yeah, I just like to see some lighter things in there at some point. I know it's obviously this semester it's a push to get it to get it through so they can teach the material, right? So, but down the road, I guess I would just like to see some lighter topics as well, because not everybody wants to read the heavy stuff, you know?
Are there any other comments or questions?
I just have one question for the Honors 2 list. What are the typical ages for that class? I think it was at the top of that page, but I didn't read that.
I believe that's 10th graders. Am I correct? So 10th, yep.
Yes, it's 10th grade because the standards are also aligning to 9 and 10. Typically, Honors English 2 would be 10th grade.
Great. Thank you so much.
Are there any more questions or comments for Honors 2 English list? Okay, I'd like to go to the last segment of our meeting to propose that as we look ahead into Q2 processing and the committee's review again in likeness, we do have one list ready to be presented. It just actually was finished today, but didn't make it in time for posting. So you can anticipate that we'll also have a special meeting to go over that list very shortly, because we really want our students to get going with that. So please anticipate that. Secondly, there is a timeline for second quarter, and we have about 5 weeks. So you can imagine that we want to be more prepared in the second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So I'd like to propose that we go ahead and begin to close out the first round, get some feedback from all the participants in the process, and also make some recommendations for the board in that process after round 1. But we'll go ahead and do what we can if there are just small adjustments to improve the process, not veering from the original plan, but just internally how we are working together with our teams to go ahead and start with Q2 processing. And if we get pretty good at it, we'll begin Q3 also, unless there are significant shifts in the process, I mean.
I like the idea of getting some feedback from the parents and students on the content of what is in these first lists, right? I mean, not initially, but, you know, after the semester, maybe just,
Yes.
I don't know. I'd like to hear what the parents think of the content, you know?
So I will write a note, Melanie. I will write a note that we'll look to get feedback after the semester, the conclusion of semester, and that would allow us to have, I think, one solid round, if you will.
Okay.
Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So I wanted to confirm that we will maintain this cycle of review and bring before you the list. We'll also try to, when we move into further quarter reviews on those lists, we'll do our best to move it into the normal cycle of the committee meeting.
Sure.
And do it that way as best we can. We just couldn't do it this time. So that would be the overarching goal, is to try to load them up into our monthly meetings. And if we can't, then I will ask you for a special meeting.
Okay. Sounds good.
Let me just review if I've asked you for everything I needed, so our team can keep working with our teachers and our reading specialists and our principals. Okay, I think that's it for my list. Are there any other outstanding items that members would like to bring up regarding this review process?
I like it. It looks like it's going to be beneficial for all parties, parents, students, and hopefully teachers can maybe reuse their list year to year. So this might be where the heavy load comes in and then reuse later. But it looks like this is the information I think parents are looking for. And it's going to be, the instructions were very clear, and we have a contingency plan of what if they don't reply. So I really like it, and it looks like, I hope it'll work. I think it'll work, but I'm just can't guarantee until we get through one round.
Okay. So please anticipate a meeting in very short time for the very last list for Q1. And I'd like to thank my team members who are right here in the C&I department for all of their very hard work. And on top of that, with the teachers again, and the literacy specialists, it has taken a whole bunch of energy and work to make this go as well as it could under the circumstances, because at the end of the day, everybody's just waiting to get books into students' hands so they can learn from them. So thank you very much for being here today and doing this part, and accepting the assurance that we're giving you in the process right now.
All right. Well, thank you. If there's no further questions, no? I'll move to adjourn the meeting at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for
Thank you very
taking time
much.
out of your day today and getting together to discuss this. So I really appreciate all the work everyone's putting in.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.